So let's be clear on something. There are now 800 military personnel that have boots on the ground in Washington D.C. And Washington D.C. is just the second city, with LA being first. But don't think it's going to stop there, because what is happening right now is bigger than what people think they see. What is happening right now is clearly an ethnic cleansing of black and brown people. Take a look at this, and we'll talk about it on the other side.
Remember in the Giuliani days when they criminalized poverty and homelessness, all of a sudden you started to see people disappearing, right? That kind of has a familiar ring to it, because what's happening with ICE? Where are they putting them? And where are the folks that are going to be, I don't know, engaged in DC? Where are they going to be putting those individuals? And because to your point earlier, this is scattershot to me, to be able to deflect from Epstein and a host of other things that are not going his way. But I also think about the fact that he does this with black mayors.
Yes.
Whether it's Baltimore, LA, New York for a period of time, and certainly down in Washington, D.C. This is what he does. So part of that thread that he pulls is, we've already put in your head that DEI means didn't earn it. We've already put doubt in your mind about the ability of these individuals to do their job. And guess what? I'm going to add to that now the political theater of putting law enforcement with long rifles in DC to make sure we tame that city. So I always think about reports from an occupied territory from James Baldwin, who says what that law enforcement force is for is to police black people because they want to protect white interests. That's what's happening here. And I don't see it any other way.
You can't, Basil, because the pretext, the thing that they're hooking their hat on here is that it is juvenile crime. You had Jeanine Pirro at the White House podium today talking about, you got to lock these kids up. If she had it her way, she would like control over juvenile detentions and what happens to those young people in Washington, D.C. And I think if you talk to, as I did today, people across the city, they're, if violent crime, if anyone, whether we're talking about an adult or a child, anyone that is wielding a gun, that is engaging in violent crime, these are not people that should be, let out into the streets. But there's no nuance here. And what the government is doing is not an answer to the issue. Yeah. The answer to any of the issues is policy. But they're using juveniles who are disproportionately black and brown and hanging their hat on this. And then the president himself today said, we're going to Oakland next. Baltimore, who's had record lows, Chicago, I should mind you. Chicago, he called the mayor of Chicago a low IQ individual. I think Brandon Johnson would like a word with that. Why? This is just, it feels like it just rolls off his tongue. And nobody in that briefing room today batted a freaking eye.
So let's just talk about the mayors who happen to be in these particular cities that this administration is going to send federal troops to. So we have the city of Oakland. We have the city of Chicago. We have the city of Baltimore. We have the city of Washington, D.C. And believe me, it does not even stop there. Okay? So Basil Smikle also has this to say. Take a look.
I want to tie this to an earlier conversation you had with Representative Clyburn around what's happening in Texas and other parts of the country. When we think about what Texas is doing, it's not just about congressional seats. It's about the state and local seats that they get to redraw once they do the congressional seats. So this kind of apartheid state that they're essentially creating means that they're now going to put people who are poor and people who are of color in these areas that will not get any services, but I guarantee you they will be heavily policed. So if you think that what happens in Texas is not going to happen anywhere else, of course it is, because we're already seeing that in DC and other cities. The whole point is to move people into these areas where they're more controlled here and everybody else can live their lives the way they want somewhere else. That's what's happening. This is a bigger plan, right? And I think it's so important for Democrats to get behind that, the understanding of that, because this is a movement of people into places for control.
There is one more huge point that I want to make. Now, back in May of 2022, Trump's former defense secretary, last name Esper, had this to say right after, well, pretty much after the George Floyd protests, and this was in response to the protests. Comes from Trump. Take a look.
What specifically was he suggesting that the U.S. military should do to these protesters?
He says, can't you just shoot them? Just shoot them in the legs or something. And he's suggesting that that's what we should do, that we should bring in the troops and shoot the protesters.
The commander-in-chief was suggesting that the U.S. military shoot protesters.
Yes, in the streets of our nation's capital. That's right. Shocking.
Shoot them. That's what he said to people that were protesting against the murder of George Floyd. Shoot them. Clear on something. Back in 1915, there was a movie called The Birth of a Nation. No, not the one from 2016. 1915. It was originally called The Klansman. All right. And it was the first motion picture of its kind, and it was being aired. Now, the president at that particular time, which was Woodrow Wilson, who was the 28th president of this divided states of America, he and his minions got dressed up in tuxedos and tails and high top hats and all those things. And they went to the grand ballroom and they watched this movie. The very next day, Woodrow Wilson went in and segregated every single part of government. Let me back up a little bit. During that time, the federal government, there was an even playing field when it came to employment. So there were black and white people who were in various positions. And there were some black people who were, in fact, in supervisory and director positions. Well, after the viewing of this movie, and I also need to tell you that the premise of this movie, which is a silent movie because it's the first motion picture, okay, by D.W. Griffith, all right? The whole premise of this was after emancipation of enslavement, that black people, you see white people in blackface. Okay, white people in blackface. So two things happen, two things that you would see. You would see a white man in blackface chasing this white woman who would rather throw herself over a mountain rather than be touched by a black man, which creates the ideology that black men are highly sexualized or hyper sexualized individuals, and that they are menaces and things of that nature. You see where that comes from? It goes way back to that. That's why it's important to understand history of this nation. And secondly, after the emancipation of enslavement, yes, there was a time where like Robert Smalls actually became part of the Congress. Well, this administration, the Wilson administration, said, no, we will not have this. We will not have black people taking over the government. So as you are watching this movie, you will see white people in blackface who are stopping white people from voting, and then they are ending up in the White House and just defiling the whole entire White House. It's a mess, honey. It's a mess. It can be hilariously funny, but we will also see what is happening today. So history is important. So that's exactly what Woodrow Wilson did. He came in the next day and put a curtain up between the white and the black typists and demoted every single black person that was in any type of decision-making position. Supervisory directors, they were immediately demoted because the premise was, you are not allowed to tell any white person what to do. We see that every city that is being targeted, there is a black person who is in a decision-making position. So this case, it would be mayor. And so the whole thing is to demote them, get them out, and never, ever let them back in. And so now makes you think of Barack Obama, right? Well, baby, they've been planning this since Barack Obama's inauguration night. Ethnic cleansing is going on right now in the so-called United States of America. I am Larissa. I am the People's Reporter. And I thank you for staying with me this long. And you know my mantra, power to the people. Yes, listen to what Basil Smikle said. And you know what to do. You know what to do. Let's do it. Let's go on and giddy up, y'all. All right, y'all. I might be new here, but I got a whole lot to say. Go on and click that subscribe button. I really appreciate you. And go on and like and comment. I'm pretty sure those folks will, because we should. We should have a whole lot to say. All right. Thank you guys for coming. And I'm out. Bye.